It's a story that happened to me at the beginning of the year in France. A few years ago, I was dating a great man. Let's call him Grant. We broke up because I had to move to begin my training far away from him for my career. It was a peaceful breakup, and we're still very good friends. So are our families. It's kind of funny because he lives where my parents live. For my part, I live in the same neighborhood as Grant's parents. It is a friendly and caring relationship that we have now. I usually spend some time with Grant's parents. In January, I left my house to go to work, but some crazy things happened. Someone wrote insults on my door. My car is scratched. I'm pretty shocked and scared. My blood literally froze. That person also sent me lots of crazy letters. You should know that France's laws are highly restricted. Fines and prison sentences are even harsher than other countries. I was so scared of this kind of situation, so I had to file a complaint to the police. The police quickly found out who the person behind it was due to the security camera on the street. It was an old woman named Claire. At that time in France, due to COVID-19, anyone leaving their home after 7 p.m. without permission was fined for more than 100 euros. The day before, someone had been caught 2 kilometers away and immediately fined. The police asked me if I knew the person who did this. She's a lady in her mid-60s. Her face is unknown to me. So in this case, I was not withdrawing my complaint. I came home from work at night and I did not miss it. I met the crazy Claire in the photo near the entrance of my building. She clearly drank before I got there and didn't wear any mask. I was on the defensive, ready to fight if it was unpleasant. She called me with lots of insults, that I was too involved in a guy's life, that I was trying to separate them. In short, I was the other woman in her daughter's couple. I didn't ask her any questions, and I let her talk, stunned. She even held a knife in her hand and tried to chase me. I freaked out and ran to my car, hid myself in it. She continuously banged at the window and still shouted at me. Furious, I called the police to solve this. The police came really fast and they tried to calm Claire. Eventually, I had to go up to my house with a few men because my presence made her angry and she could kill me at any time. Later, I was told that she went to a van, but they didn't let her drive because she was drunk. A few days later, I got a call from Grant, who told me that he was going with his girlfriend, Grace, with both of the parents whom he'd been dating for a year. We're both friends on social media, and she's a great person. I told myself that he just wanted to see his parents, and maybe we could have a little chat since we haven't seen each other. And I also wanted to meet Grace. When they visited my house, Grace told me that they came for her mother who was declared demented. Apparently, she almost assaulted someone. Police found a shotgun in the back of her car. A little panicked, I asked Grace if her mother's name was Claire, and she nodded her head. The police and doctors thought she was just crazy and that she wanted to attack me for no reason. But Grace explained that it was because I had spent Christmas with her boyfriend's parents when she couldn't do it. Her mother had taken the news very badly, and she was afraid that her daughter would lose her boyfriend. I'd rather laugh about it than cry. The mother is on treatment. I withdrew my complaint, even though that night was scary, and I was almost killed though. But I felt that it was funny that Claire behaved like that just because I visited Grant's parents. Grant and Grace had to explain to her a lot. But I guess I don't have any guts to go to Grant's house ever again. The beginning of this story takes place while I was in 6th grade. It was a typical day. I went to school, but that day I went to school late. So I missed the daily news podcast before the class, and the next few hours were the time I couldn't forget. When I walked to the class, everyone was looking at me and there was gossip behind my back. I was wondering what happened. Even my teacher, who was always enthusiastic in every class, looked at me with worried eyes, and the class was silent, making me even more nervous. Was missing the podcast causing me serious problems? Did I miss something? On the break, all the kids in class were laughing at me. The gossip went louder. I heard everyone say bad things about my dad, about me being a bad guy's daughter. My father wasn't nice. What a shame to have a father like that. Well, I knew that my parents were divorced a year ago, but he always treated me nicely and I visited him a lot. He seemed caring and kind, so how come he was a bad guy? I had to ask my friends what was going on, and she showed me a video that went viral in school. Recorded the news from the school's podcast about a man who was sentenced to jail for 16 years. But I saw the man in the photo with handcuffs with his name. It was my dad, without any doubt. I continuously said that this was fake, but it was from my school's podcast. It couldn't be fake. I was in shock. My dad was in jail? I didn't know what to do, so I ran out of the class crying. When I got home that night, I asked my mother about my father, and she claimed he was all right. She spilled when I informed her about what had happened at school. He had been arrested a few months prior, she said. It was a matter of stuff, and he would be sentenced to 16 years in prison. She told a little background on my father. When I was 2 years old, he cheated on my mother and had a child with another woman. My father, instead of confronting the situation, moved to another state, leaving my mother and me behind. That was why they divorced. My mouth was wide open. It was a scenario I couldn't accept at first. I couldn't sleep or eat, and my entire class now knew my father was in prison, and my dad turned out to be that horrible. But I still loved him, and I know he loves me too. This can't change, ever, so I forgave him. The next day, my classmates still laughed about my father, but I still took it and talked back to them about how my dad was the best dad ever, because I knew he made mistakes, but he still treated me nicely and was a great dad. The laughter was shut down, and that day I didn't hear anyone gossiping about my dad behind my back. The news was forgotten through time. My mother received a phone call from my father a week later. I snatched the phone away from her right away. My father and I talked about how much we missed one another and how we wanted to maintain our relationship despite the difficulties. That's exactly what we did. I can't wait for him to come out one day so I can give him a big hug. It was a few years ago when this happened. We were both nursing students in college, and I used to be friends with this girl. Let's call her Jackie. We had a lot in common and usually loved partying. We got along swimmingly for the majority of the year, except for the last few weeks of school. Me and Jackie made a promise not to date or flirt or sleep with the other's boyfriend, even their exes. After our graduation, about a year later, I started dating another boy in school, and he usually went to our room to play. However, I usually had extra classes, so he would stay in our room alone with Jackie. I could sense that they had something together, and he always accidentally visited me exactly the same time that I had to attend classes. My boyfriend stayed in the same room with my best friend. How could you not stay suspicious? But I believed Jackie would not break our promise, or that's what I thought. One night, my boyfriend arrived at our house for a pre-party. We all left at the same time and then headed to the party. Jackie and the boy left after midnight, and I just stayed with the rest of my friends without noticing. Because we shared an apartment, I assumed they were both going to campus together. When I returned, only to hear them intimate, one of them my lover. I was heartbroken. He was my lover, and I felt I'd finally found the one. Yes, it was only a few months, but he was kind, and I thought he cared about me. I felt heartbroken and enraged. Furthermore, I despised Jackie, since she didn't give a damn about my thoughts. Instead, sleeping with the boy I was dating and breaking the promise. I knew I had to revenge for her twice causing suffering on me, and this is how I did it. We were both heavy smokers of illegal stuff. I continued to pretend to be friends with her after graduation, despite the fact that she had slept with my ex. We both returned to our hometowns, which coincidentally were close to each other, and started working as nurses at the same hospital, different units. Our hospital had a strict drug policy that prohibited the use of any drugs. I had quit smoking, but she had not. I'd always persuade her to do it, and then I'd have to drink or pretend to take a hit. About 2 months of me halting and her continuing, I wrote an anonymous message on my manager's desk. Jackie is currently on a high. You must put her to the test. She would never go to work intoxicated, preferring to smoke the day before her shift. She was never drunk at work. Well, about an hour later, occupational health arrived and everyone on the unit, doctors, techs, unit clerk, cleaning staff, etc., was tested to avoid any prejudice. And if you left, you would be breaking rules and face termination. After breaking out in the break room, Jackie texted me and she said she needed to chat. I dashed over to her and seemed to have no clue, assuring her that everything would be okay. Terminated 1 week later, she